dealing with the unwanted or meeting with resistance or whatever you want to call it. But, holidays, anybody, maybe some other people have experienced this. Holidays with family can sometimes bring up stuff. And it was, what is it? Hanukkah. Anyways, so I had a really practical application for working with the practice Lori. So it was very interesting. And at the same time, I've just finished a course with in mindful self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a particular similarity between your practice and soft, soothe, allow practice. So, the self-compassion is a lot more overt in the self-compassion practice. And this one is much more of an opportunity of being with experience.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience was that it was like layers of the onion.
Were you practicing with the technique, the relaxed release technique?
You know,
Oh, you said you've frozen, Heidi.
take experience and bring it back. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Hmm. Oh, you know what? It's telling me my internet connection is unstable. Can people hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine. It sometimes does that, but it doesn't really mean anything.
Okay. So I'm going to, so we'll start with a meditation. So I'll mute everybody. 1 sec. Gotta find where to do that. Okay. So finding a nice, comfortable position where you can be both relaxed and yet alert. And not leaning forward or back unless you're really leaned up against something for support. But just checking, I tend to lean a little forward. And then stretching up and settling in, allowing everything to hang off the spine, allowing the body to relax. Just coming into the body with your attention. And we'll start with one sound of the bell. And becoming aware of the body breathing, aware of when you're breathing in and when you're breathing out. And not trying to control the breath, but just allowing the body to breathe naturally. So letting go of wanting your breath to be long or short or rhythmic or not, just allowing it to be exactly as it is. Allowing your body to be exactly as it is. There may be tension or pressure. There may be pain or heat or cold. Whatever's there, welcoming it, allowing it to be. And if you notice any bracing or holding in your experience, and doing your best to relax on your next out breath. And you, the one inside who's aware, relax. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to figure anything out. You can just ride the waves of the breath. bringing kindness and curiosity to this experience. You don't have to do anything. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just being aware of the body breathing in, and body breathing out. Knowing that you're the one who's aware. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And whatever the attention wanders from the body breathing, perhaps into thoughts or sounds, that's no problem. As soon as you notice that, you've gone from forgetfulness to awareness. So you can celebrate. I know my attention is wandering. And then gently bring it back to the body breathing. Every time you do that, you're strengthening your mindfulness muscles. Good. And now bringing your attention to your emotions, noticing what emotions are there. Noticing if you can feel them in your body. There may be more than one. Some may be stronger than others. Just allowing your emotions to be as they are, allowing them to run freely, allowing the heart to play its tune. Knowing that you are not your emotions. You're the one who's aware. You can smile to whatever's there. You might want to continue to include the awareness of breath in your field of focus. So a little bit on breath, mostly on your emotional state. It's called using the breath as an anchor. And just for fun, let's see if we can notice any joy in this experience. So just looking around the body, looking around your experience. Is there any joy there? It doesn't matter whether we find it or not. We're just noticing maybe there's a little bit in the face somewhere. Maybe in the hands or the fingers. Maybe in one of your toes. Or in your left heel. Just looking around. We're not trying to make anything happen. We're just exploring, playing this game. There may be thoughts. You're doing your best to just leave them in the background. When you notice the thoughts tugging on your attention, just let go, release that pull. And do your best to keep the attention on the body and the emotional state. And if the thoughts pull you in, that's no problem. When you notice that, then just coming back to the emotions and the body, breathing. If there's no joy in the body, perhaps there's joy somewhere else in the experience. Perhaps it's in somewhere in the country. Perhaps it's in someone else who's one of us here tonight. Perhaps it's in your mind. Perhaps it's in a flower somewhere. You're letting go of exploring for joy. Noticing what else is there in your emotional state that may be strong or maybe subtle. Perhaps there's some anxiety there. If there is, where do you feel it? Can you just allow it to be? Allow it to move as it wants. Just relaxing into it. Observing it from a place of awareness. There might be some frustration. Or maybe some gratitude, some appreciation. some sense of lack or shame, feeling small, feeling less than, feeling not quite right. Allowing yourself to feel whatever's there. Doing your best to relax and open to it. And observe it, knowing that you're not the emotion, you're the one who notices it. With each out breath, allowing the body to relax, allowing your any sort of bracing or holding, allowing that to relax, any resistance, just relax. Just be. And with the sound of the bell, we'll bring this meditation to an end. So opening the eyes if they're closed. And moving the body wherever you want to move it. Massaging it, stretching it. Leaving it alone, whatever you want to do. So welcome everyone. Tonight our theme is emotions, as you probably gathered from the readings this week. So it's time now for home practice review. So this is an opportunity to to ask any questions or share how your practice has gone this past week. So we had, of course, doing the meditations, the sitting meditations, and then we had the just practicing letting go. We had what else did we have? We had the shower exercise of just being aware of your experience, knowing that you're the one who's experiencing whatever's going on in the shower. And what else did we have? I think just practicing being aware, practicing being in that seat of awareness, knowing that you're the one who's aware. So I want to hear from you. What happened this week with your practice? Who wants to share? Yeah, Sandra.
It was very inconsistent from day to day. Sometimes I felt open to letting go, and other times, even if it was something small, I just didn't want to. No.
Some intermittent resistance.
Yeah.
To practice. Yeah.
And so sometimes that resistance was over something stupid. I'm like, whatever, I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to. And then other times, I know we were supposed to practice with small things, but it's life, and sometimes big things happen. And so I had a few in the middle things. And that was hard to let go. It was.
Now, when you say it was hard to let go, what exactly did you do in terms of working with it?
The breathe, like get into your body, breathe, release, and go behind yourself and just see yourself in that relax, release, that method that you taught us.
Mhm, mhm. So, would you mind sharing what, like one instance of where you were doing that?
One
Um,
instance where it didn't work.
sure. When you say didn't work, what does work mean? Maybe
That I
you could just
released.
go through it and then we'll see what you meant.
Um, okay. Just
Um, and just very brief on the content. I want to focus on like the practice, how you practice with it.
okay, so I have this mental tape repeating something that I said to somebody, and it just keeps going and going. So I know it's powerful for me. And I want to, okay, so I take a breath, just come back to myself. And then I notice, I find it helps to tell myself, why am I repeating that thing? What is it? Oh, I'm afraid of losing this person's approval or whatever, something like that. And then try and let go of it. Not happening.
When you say
I
try and let go, what exactly? Like, so there's awareness that there's something, that something's bothering you. There's an awareness that things are different than you want them to be, that you want these thoughts to stop. Is that right?
Yes,
And was there an emotion there? Did you notice any particular emotional
yes.
state? What emotion?
Fear, I guess. It's mostly fear, fear of losing approval, fear of losing
Right.
somebody's love.
Okay. So there's fear there, and there's thoughts going around in your head. And what was your intention when you
To
started
let go of,
to let go? So when you say let go, what did you want to happen?
for it to not have such a hold on me, so I could just be myself and not have to. I mean, that particular tape playing over and over
Mhm.
puts me in a position where I continue to repeat a pattern of behavior, where I continue to feel like it's important to be this persona with this person. Otherwise, they won't want me, they won't love me, they won't whatever. And so I'm trying to let go of it, and I'm like, no way, not letting go of that.
Right. So when you say let go, is the idea that the thoughts would stop or the emotion would change?
Yeah,
Yeah. So because what you're describing is quite uncomfortable, right?
very.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when that happens, we all, you know, uh, you want it to stop, basically. You want to feel better, right?
Yeah, and not being able to let go of it actually makes me feel ashamed.
Right. So there's first there's the wanting to feel better, wanting this to stop, wanting to let go, as you said. And then there's this um uh negative judgment around not being able to let it go. So then there's another disturbance as a result of not being able to let it go, right? Yeah, yeah. So that's wonderful. That's a great scenario to describe. So so you're practicing with this stuff, right? And you got to give yourself a pat on the back for practicing with it, because it's not easy stuff. Um, one of the key things in Mickey's practice is that um, he would call this what you did, which is what everybody does. By the way, I'm not singling you out. Every single person who's taken this course does the same thing, right? Because this is how we operate, right? This is how our brain operates. Um, is that we feel discomfort and we don't want to feel it. We want it to go away. So we defend. We defend against it, right? And in this case, we defend by saying, you know, by having this like wanting to let go, right? Wanting to convince yourself that you don't need to think about this, right? But that's actually the opposite of what we're trying to do here. Because what we're trying to do here is when we feel this discomfort, and we know is to notice how we're defending against it and stop defending and just let it all the way in, right? And the way we do that is we relax, right? We relax, we allow the body to relax. And then not that the body's necessarily going to relax, but at least we just, on our out breath, we relax. And then also we relax the awareness, the intention in terms of like wanting it to go away. We're seized with this problem. I have this problem. I have all these thoughts. I have this emotion. It's uncomfortable. I want it to go away, right? And you can use often we use the phrase, I want to let it go. But what we're actually letting go of is not the disturbance. It's the resistance to feeling it. It's the resistance to experiencing it. So the idea is just to allow the body to relax. You, the one inside who's aware, relax the idea, relax. You don't need to do anything about this. You don't need to do anything about this disturbance. And release means, it's the idea that you notice the pull of the disturbance on your attention, how it's trying to suck you into it, and release that pull. And in other words, keep your awareness, try and stay centered, knowing that you're the one who's aware of the emotions, you're the one who's aware of the thoughts. You're not the thoughts, you're not the emotions. The thoughts are your personal mind, right? The thoughts are the voice in your head, if you will. And you don't need to care about them, right? You don't need to, and I know that's much easier said than done, especially this is not small stuff. So I would not expect you to be able to do this at this point. But just to have an idea of, where we're going, to be able to, just basically I just say to myself, yeah, I'm not going to worry about this right now. The thoughts are going on. It's really uncomfortable, but I'm just going to relax and just watch. I can put my attention wherever I want. I can put my attention on my body breathing. I can put my attention on, I can watch the thoughts. I can watch the emotion, but whatever I do with my attention doesn't matter. The main thing is I'm not going to let my attention get pulled out of my seat of awareness and get sucked into those thoughts and emotions and basically have my attention collapse on it, where all I care about is making it go away, right? So that's the release part. Release is really allowing, right? So we're practicing letting it be rather than letting it go. So letting go of resistance is the same thing as letting the disturbance be, right? And we're just letting it in. The intention is to experience it fully, right? To just allow the thoughts and the emotions to do their thing. It's surrender, right? It's just yeah, because I don't want to store it. I don't want to stop it from moving. And we'll talk about this more in this class. I just want to let it do its thing. Let the emotions and the thoughts just run and do whatever they want, and I'm not going to try and stop them. Right? And I want to experience them fully. So that's, so you relax, you just allow the body to relax, you allow your will to relax. It's I don't need to fix anything here. You release the pull of the thoughts. So in other words, that's the awareness is getting pulled into them. You lean back and stay centered, knowing that you're the one who's aware. And you don't have to be there for any length of time. You don't the thoughts don't have to go to like diminish, the emotion doesn't have to diminish. You're not trying to make any of that happen, right? You're just letting whatever happens happen. And um, and that's it. And that's it. And like Mickey says, like, you know, people are constantly saying, you know, you know, it was so difficult and these things wouldn't go, you know, the emotions wouldn't stop, the thoughts wouldn't stop. I just struggled and struggled and I did my best, but, you know, I kept getting pulled into it and you know, and this went on for a while and then, you know, whatever. Um, uh, you know, somehow I went on to something else. And he'll say, perfect, right? Because we're learning to let go. We're learning to let go. And so everything, you know, having that awareness there, we're seeing how the attention gets drawn in. We're seeing, you know, how we resist the experience, right? And so you're learning to let go. The actual, you know, diminishment or release of the disturbance, don't have to worry about that, right? That's a result, but it's not the practice, right? So we think of that as working, but what working really means is I'm actually practicing relax, release, lean back, right? And so it's maybe not as satisfying as you would hope. But that's just the nature of practice, you know. And I would point out, you know, at the beginning, you start out by saying, well, you know, sometimes I just thought, I don't feel like doing this, right? That's the voice in your head. That's your personal mind. Right there, that is something you can work with and say, oh, I'm just going to relax, go to the point, you know, and recognize that this is my personal mind. This is garbage. I'm not going to get drawn into it. And drawn into it means you're on autopilot. You say, I don't feel like it, and you don't do it. And you don't even realize that, you know, the voice in your head has just screwed you up, right?
It, it can be really loud.
Well, it's not even, yeah, loud, but it's not even that it's loud. It's just that it's like you're hypnotized, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you're hypnotized because you're absorbed in it. So you don't have that perspective to see what's actually going on, right? To see this is the voice in your head giving me bad advice. You
Yeah.
know, when you identify with the voice in your head, then it's like, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do it because it's me. It's me.
Because it's me. Yeah.
It's me. And this is where I'm at now. And I'm, you know, I want to be true to myself. You don't even think that. You're just on autopilot. I mean, it tells you and you follow and you don't think twice about it. Right? So that's a wonderful illustration of the voice in your head. It's a wonderful illustration of you know, how we defend against discomfort.
Well, it feels like if I don't defend against it, that I'm not safe.
Right. Perfect. Yes. You got nailed, like bingo, right? But so it's basically, and we'll get into this more next week, but basically there's a fear there, the resistance, like there's a fear there that I need to defend, otherwise, you know, I can get hurt, I can die, bad things will happen, right? That is, again, your personal mind, that's your ego, defending those patterns, defending your blockages, right? That and it, you know, this is why we practice. You know, it takes practice because it just seems so dangerous, right? it seems so threatening to not defend. But it's all in your mind. You know, it's like we have nothing to fear but fear itself, right? But fear is powerful. So we have to, that's why we start working with the small stuff. We have to work with the little teeny weeny fears. And then, you know, we get quite clear that we want to stop defending. We get quite clear that we're not going to let the fear stop us from opening to the experience. And then we work with a little teeny fear. And we maybe are able to relax into the fear and allow ourselves to experience what we've been defending against, you know, with just a little thing. And we do that, and you know, it may work, it may not work, but after you do this a number of times, at some point it will work with some little thing, and you'll be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. In fact, that was kind of cool. Okay. And then you keep at it, and then you learn over time that the fear, like, it's tricking you. It's trying to, you know, you don't, there's really nothing to be afraid of, you know? I mean, there's, you know, there might be some emotional pain, but there's no great peril there, right? And, but even then you can't actually stop resist, like you can't command yourself to stop resisting. You can kind of do a gesture of opening, you know, you can say yes, or you can say, you know, I want to experience this, or, you know, tear down my walls, or whatever you want to say. And when you do a gesture, and then maybe it releases, maybe like the resistance lets go, or maybe not. I find that part is like grace. It's unpredictable, you know? And this whole thing is unpredictable, right? Life is unpredictable. So it's a matter of just being centered and allowing, centered and opening, you know, centered in that you're aware of what's going on. You're aware that emotions are emotions, thoughts are thoughts. And you just, you know, you just do your best to open or not close. We're going to talk about that tonight. So yeah, it's very different than how we're used to, in that sense. Like, it's this idea of not defending is very, not just counterintuitive, but it is threatening. It feels threatening. So when you notice that feeling of being threatened, give yourself a pat on the back, because that's fantastic. You know, this is what we're practicing here. We're practicing noticing these things, right? Noticing the all the components of the resistance, right? And what happens when I, you know, I do this, when I do that, when I do this, when I do that, you know, I do that 10 times. What are the results I got? I do this 10, you know. So it's learning to let go. So each time is an opportunity to learn. And if you focus on the learning as opposed to the result, much nicer. Yeah. So that was a rather long-winded answer. Andrea's smiling, yeah. So thanks, Sandra. Thanks for putting yourself out there. What about other folks? Anything came up that you, yeah, Eleanor?
Yeah, I had something happen today, and I don't know if I'm on the right track, and that's why I want to give an example, a specific example. I belong to a networking group, and that I meet with very regularly, and and a person that just recently joined, and it's a Zoom group, very, very much like this.
Mhm.
And and she talks a lot, like she talks a lot in the group, and she has a very annoying voice. Like it annoys me. It's a very annoying voice. And it's almost like a witch talking, really. She could be like the wicked witch. And it does something to me. Like, that annoyance
Mhm.
does something to me. And today I became I practiced by saying, I'm aware of the annoyance. I'm aware that of annoyance of her, almost to the point where I don't know her very well, but it leads me to I don't like her, kind of thing. And I'm
So that was a thought,
aware, I'm aware of this,
right?
and so I just did not know what to do. I was aware and I was open. Like it was like, you don't know this person. You can't say you don't like her. It's a perception of yours. The whole thing I started, I guess the personal mind started going, but I kind of stopped myself too and said, well, give her a chance. That's all I said to myself, like try not to have these be so judgmental. Again, the personal mind saying it, but the awareness was there. I was aware of what was going on in my
Mhm.
mind,
Mhm.
but it didn't go beyond that. So I don't know about relaxing and releasing. I couldn't, like, you know, like I even looked around the group to think, what should I do? Should I focus
Yeah,
on what another
yeah,
person's wearing, or should I, what should I do?
right.
So that's why I wanted to bring it up, because that's that's the mystery to me
Yeah,
is, I'm aware, the awareness is there, that, but then taking it that next step.
yeah. So the next step is very um, simple, but not easy, which is to recognize that asking, what do I do about this, has become the disturbance, right? The answer is you don't need to do anything about this. You don't need to do anything about it. You don't need to stop the thoughts, because it sounds like there were a lot of thoughts. And there was obviously some, perhaps some frustration, irritation, some self-judgment there maybe around the fact that you were having these thoughts. Um, uh, the main thing is just to notice that it's all your personal mind. Like all of this stuff is your personal mind. And the tricky part of it is the part about what do I do? The simple answer is you don't need to do anything. You don't need to figure this out, right? Because um, like I'll often give the instruction, you don't need to figure it out, right? That's what you don't need to figure out. You don't need to figure out what to do, right? In a sense of you don't need to fix the problem of having these thoughts and these emotions, right? And it sounds like the thoughts are the main kind of thing here. The emotions are kind of the byproduct of the thoughts. But you don't have to stop the thoughts. You don't have to like this person. You can just watch and notice, oh, there's interesting thoughts. Boy, my personal mind is just so, screwed up. Wow, interesting. Like this is, um, uh, I find it helpful actually to personify this stuff. I came across a teacher this summer who's like a teacher of a teacher of mine, and he refers to these patterns, these as our little bosses, right? And it's like it's your little boss talking, right? It's your little boss talking, saying, well, I hate this voice. She sounds like a witch. I want these thoughts to stop. What am I going to do about it? So it's like, you know what? That's not you. And you don't have to worry about this little boss talking away, or this pattern, or whatever you want to call it. I don't, you can just, it's like, I'm just going to let it talk. I don't care. I don't care, because this is, and that's the release, right? That's the releasing the flow of the energy. It's like, I don't need to figure this out. I don't need to make it stop. I don't need to do anything with it.
Kind of like the weather? Is that kind of like the weather? Like I have no control over this. Is that?
Yeah, you have control. You have no control over the weather, and you have no control over your thoughts. So you're under the, you can't make thoughts stop, right? You can make thoughts happen. You can think to yourself, hello, hello, and it will say that in your mind, but you can't turn off these thoughts that you're having about this woman. And you can't turn off these thoughts you're having about, I need to fix this, right? I need to figure out what to do. So relax is basically all about stopping. Relax is like, relax. You don't need to do anything about this. Relax.
Just
Relax.
notice it. Just notice it.
Just notice it. And you don't even need to keep your attention on the thoughts, or keep your, it's basically like, don't buy into the thoughts. Don't buy into them. Don't feel that you need to do anything about them. Don't, they're not you, and you don't need to do anything about them. They're just this little creature inside of you, and they're yammering away, and I don't care. I don't care.
And will that eventually make me not reactive to this person? Or is it just a matter of wherever it goes, it goes?
It over time you should get less reactive, but it's counterproductive to get attached to that. It's counterproductive to think to myself, I'm going to do this and then I'll be less reactive, because what we're actually practicing is being okay with the reactivity, right? Because when you're not okay with the reactivity, then you defend against it, and by defending against it, you reinforce it, or you prevent it from resolving, right?
So what I'm hearing you say is notice it, but don't engage in it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Don't feel like you have to do anything about it.
Okay.
When I say you, the one inside, relax, that's what I'm talking about. You, the one inside who, you see this thing going on, and then you sort of think of yourself as the one who's going to fix it, right?
So don't think that way.
You, the one who thinks you need to fix it, relax, But in fact, that's not you. You're still aware of that thought. I want to fix it, right? Every time that you notice any sort of disturbance, you're not the disturbance, because anything you notice is not you. You're the one who notices, right? So, but again, the mind will trick you and trick you and trick you. So part of what we're doing here is we're learning our mind's tricks, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Teresa, yeah.
What about if you're dealing with like kind of a frustrating situation, but you do have to deal with it? And I'll just give you an example of something I went through this morning. My mother, my elderly, frail mother, has a medical appointment tomorrow at a hospital, and I need to go in with her, but they have all these restrictions now because of COVID. And so the hospital phoned and left a message yesterday and said, if someone needs to accompany the patient, then just phone this number. So I phoned the number this morning, and it was to the ultrasound department where my mother has to go. And I got a guy on the phone, and he didn't seem to know what the procedure was. and the process. And he just kept saying I couldn't go with her. And I'm like, but I have to go with her. Like, she can't go in on her own. And we were just talking in circles, and I found myself getting frustrated. And I actually said to him at one point, "Can I just talk to your manager? I don't want to talk to you anymore." And I kind of snapped at him, but because I needed, but I had to deal with it, right? Like, because I had to get my name on this list so I'd be able to go in with her. So I'm just like, what if you have to deal with it? You know what I mean? Like, what if you have to do something about it and you just can't?
Well, you know, in terms of there's the small stuff, and small stuff by definition is stuff where you don't actually have to fix anything on the outside, right? Which makes it much easier to deal with. When you do have to fix something on the outside, so, this technique says nothing about how to fix things on the outside, other than it's easier to fix them on the outside when you're not in turmoil on the inside. It's easier to fix things on the outside when you're in a good place on the inside. But that said, right here, like where you're at, like, you may not have the capacity, like, you're gonna get riled up in a situation like this, right? So you just do your best to just notice, try and stay as centered as you can, being aware when emotions and thoughts come up that they're emotions and thoughts, being aware that that you can just relax. But you do have to obviously, deal with this situation, and I have no advice.
And I had to push a bit to deal with it, right? And
yeah, and that's because this isn't about the outer problem, right?
Yeah.
This course is about how to deal with the inner problem, and how we tend to think we tend to ignore the inner problem, or see the solution to the inner problem as the outer fix, right? What's going to make me feel better is being able to accompany my mom, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way to feel better. So what this technique is about is to say, well, can you be okay with however things go? And again, that's in this situation, like that would be extraordinarily difficult, but certainly possible at some later point in time. But you do need to deal with the outer problem, and so you just try and stay as centered as you can, and you just recognize that this is a difficult situation. I don't have control, so I'm going to do my best, but I don't have control. That's the reality, right? I don't have control. So as long as you're of the view, I have to control this, I have to get the outcome that I want, as important as that outcome sounds, you don't have control. So as long as
I guess
you're,
at worst, the worst thing that could have happened is like we could go tomorrow and my name might not be on the list, but I'll have to deal with it there instead or something, right? So
right.
Yeah.
And
it's not a big deal in the big scheme of things. I mean, it wasn't a big,
yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not, I don't think you're going to be able to, like, this is a big one to practice with. So, still try and practice with it, but don't have much in the way of expectations. Just try and stay as centered as you can. Try and stay as relaxed as you can. And the more important thing in terms of your practice is to practice with small stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so sorry, Mark. Okay. You unmuted and muted again. Okay, now you're unmuted.
Gave me an opportunity to practice at that moment. So just to follow up on that earlier example, in the emotion, and I guess this speaks to all times when emotion is present, is there ever a time when the emotion is used as an ally to assist in moving the intention forward in a non-destructive way? Because it seems as though we have our inner disturbance and we have an outer disturbance, and it's hard to imagine that they're not connected. My center of awareness, my seat of awareness is present, and there is part of me that is directing and guiding, navigating an outer disturbance. And so, who is that? Is it my personal mind, or is it a benevolent personal mind? Is it my, ally? Is it because in the center of awareness, it's just awareness. There is no intention to move forward, to direct, because that would become personal mind. And so I'm a little confused by how one, in that example, would move forward, knowing that you're upset, in fact, assisting you in asking for further issues to be resolved. So anyway, I know it's a big question, but anyways.
There's a couple of questions that sounds like bound up in there. So one question is, can something like anger ever be helpful, right? Because it may spur you to take action, for example, to right a wrong, or remedy an injustice or something like that. So that's one question. And then the other question I'm hearing there is like, who am I? Who am I really? Am I this higher intention? Am I this awareness? But how can I be this awareness? Because the awareness doesn't really have any views or intentions or anything. That question, I think, best to leave to the side. That's one to explore. Like that's a really big spiritual question, and as far as I can tell, the only answer to that is an experiential one. You're getting into the non-dual stuff, right? You're getting into the self, no self, what is self, that sort of stuff. So I won't try and answer that. And I don't even think I have an answer to it. I mean, that's, it's kind of beyond concepts. And so it's hard to answer with concepts, but the issue of, can anger ever be helpful, or whatever the emotion is, it could be fortuitous. Like I've had experiences in my life where, when I was doing LGBT equality work, I remember getting really angry at Mr. Harper, and that's spurring me to take some really good action. So I'm not going to say anger is never helpful, but you still want to come from a place of clarity. Like, when you're really caught up in anger, for example, you don't, your judgment is thrown off, right? Like it's a really bad time to press the send button when you're in the throes of anger, right? So, the anger may spur you to say, I want to do something about this, but then hopefully when you're figuring out what to actually do, or when you're actually doing it, you're in a more clear state. you know, a more balanced, more perspective. You know, you don't want to have your awareness collapsed, right, and be on autopilot. It's always better to come from a place of, you know, I know this is a thought, I know this is an emotion. I'm sure that higher intention is running the show here, as opposed to, you know, anger or fear or something like that running the show. So, so my short answer is there may be situations when it's fortuitous, when it helps to get you going, but I wouldn't want to, you know, carry out the plan while you're under the cloud of of, of some strong emotion. You know, and when I say under the cloud, I mean like your consciousness is collapsed and you're on autopilot and you're identifying with it, and it's about you. That's the thing, is when you're really caught in anger or fear or whatever it might be, or loneliness, it's all about you. And so that's a warped perspective for action.
Thank you.
That's my thought anyway. Okay, so we better get going here on the actual chapters. But I think that was really useful. So thank you everyone who shared there. So chapter 5, inner energy. I guess it's called infinite energy. I call it inner energy. So this is just the idea that, you know, there's all this energy inside us. And Mickey's talk last night, actually, like the one he posted on his website last night, was all about this. And you know, he talked about this idea that you know, what we really want is we want to feel good, right? We want to feel love. We want to feel joy. We want to feel enthusiasm, right? And this is all energy, right? We can they're all just different, you know, different flavors of the same energy, right? And when we don't have that energy flowing, that's when we get depressed, right? That's when we don't feel good, right? And at the end of the day, what we really want is to feel good, to feel peace, to feel whole, and that's dependent on the energy flowing. Okay, whether you actually feel an energy flow or whether you just feel this sense of aliveness of you know, of energy, right? You can just feel like, okay, I'm ready to do this. So just the idea that it can flow, and then also we can stop the flow, right? You know, we're talking to someone, we're feeling good, and then they say something that we feel hurt, or we feel, you know, or there's just some negative judgment there, or whatever, they, you know, and then all of a sudden the heart closes. You can think of it as the heart closing, or the mind closing, or the energy stopping flowing, however you think about it. There's this closing down, and the energy stops flowing, and the mood goes negative. The mind, the thoughts go negative, right? And the reason that we close is to protect ourselves, right? We talked earlier about the idea of defending ourselves against these. That's what we're doing when we close, is we're going into defensive mode, right? And it's not a happy place, right? Happy place is heart open, right? Closed is not a happy place. And our mind tells us, as you know, when Sandra was raising her question, we're talking about her experience. The mind thinks that it needs to defend, because if I don't, bad things are going to happen. But the mind is deluded, okay? Because the only thing closing accomplishes is it stops the energy flow. It doesn't actually help to improve the situation, right? We're afraid of experiencing these emotions, but we have the capacity to experience the emotions. It's just that the mind doesn't want to. So we really, and you know, we tend to close because our blockages get hit, right? And I'll talk a little in the following chapters there that talk about what these blockages are, but basically when our blockages get hit, that's when we close. It's just kind of automatic. And so we can actually train ourselves not to close, you know? And so the admonition in this chapter is really, it's never worth closing. And just, you know, notice when you're closed, if you can. Like that's a practice, noticing when you're closed, right? It's just noticing like when there's a disturbance, basically. Like there's, but this is framed in terms of energy. It's framed in terms of the flow of energy is closed down. So you may feel, I often feel it around the heart area. Mickey does kind of say this is kind of the main place you'll feel it. But just, you know, how it works in you is really just for you to practice.
Lori, is it something you feel physically, like in your body, when you close?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, that's part of it, but it's so, you know, some people are more attuned to their body and some people are more attuned to their thoughts. I tend to notice it more when my thoughts go negative, but you can, you know, it's good to look both places. So you may notice it in your heart, or you just may notice that your mental state's gone negative.
Okay. Thanks.
And the main way that you train yourself not to close is to stop defining what you like and what you don't like, right? And that's a tall order, but that's basically what happens is we have an experience, the experience is unpleasant, we defend against it, we store it, right? And we say, I don't like that experience, right? I don't like this woman's voice. I don't like this woman's voice. So then in the future, anything that happens in our experience that we associate with that, it triggers that. And we say, well, I don't like that. Right. And, you know, in a very, well, you know, one way to sum up this practice is practice liking everything. Right. Now that may sound absurd, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, because we want to be able to be open in any situation. And so you know, we want to be open even when there's these things going on that we don't like, right? Which is things that we've stored that were unpleasant, basically. Sandra, yeah.
So practicing with liking everything, how do you handle bad news? You know, somebody in the family has a medical problem, losing somebody in the family, whatever, that kind of thing. There's no way you can tell yourself, I like this.
Yeah, it's more a question of I'm not going to close. It's so like, you know, when my father passed away about a year and a half ago, and I was very clear in my intention that I wanted to experience this fully, that this was an important experience and I wanted to experience it fully. It clearly was not something I liked. It was not something I wanted. It was not something I had any control over. But any experience can be a rich experience when you let it in, when you just experience it as fully as you can from a place of awareness. Sadness can be a wonderful experience, right? Not, you know, not a happy experience, but you know, but keeping my heart open through that, which, you know, I was able to do most of the time. Keeping my heart open through that was really powerful. You know, it's like you go to a movie and you see you know, some tragedy, some tragic movie, right? And you know, you cry, and you have such, you know, strong feelings of sadness. And afterwards, your friend says, "Oh, how was that movie?" And you say, "It was fantastic. You gotta go see it." Oh my God, I cried and cried. You gotta go see it, right? And that's because you didn't identify with it. You didn't see the sadness as your own. It was the movie. It was the movie. So I'm not afraid of experiencing it. But when it's my own sadness, oh my God, now it's a terrible thing, right? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So, you know, it's not necessarily I'm going to stay happy through this. It's more I'm going to stay open to this. I'm not going to close my heart. I'm not going to tell myself I need to defend against this, or not. You know, I'm actually going to tell myself I'm not going to defend against this, because you know, we kind of, over our lives, you know, we get all these, we store all these past impressions. We have all these triggers, and we get very used to opening and closing, right? And in fact, all we do is close. Like we close, and then at some point we stop closing, but we don't actively open, we actively close. So open is just not closing, really. So the idea is to notice when we close, and to have that, to realize that it's never worth closing, because why would you ever want to be closed? You know, the only reason you want to be closed is because you're afraid to open, because you're afraid to fully experience it. But in fact, like, that's the road to happiness, is fully experiencing every moment, right? So you can call that liking every moment. Obviously, liking is not quite right.
Like embracing every moment.
Yeah, like seeing every moment as worthwhile. It's like, I only have so much time on this earth, and every experience, every moment is of some value. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to be a greater person for having experienced it fully, rather than, you know, defending, and, you know, having this very small comfort zone, right? We're working on expanding our comfort zone, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the freedom, right? The freedom is that my comfort zone encompasses this situation. It's not that the reactivity stops, or the negative emotions stop, or the unpleasantness stops, right? That does happen, but it's a byproduct. It's not the focus. Okay. Why don't we have just a very quick stretch? So just 30 seconds to stand up, or do whatever you want to get you can maybe shake out the body. Just do whatever your body wants. Don't worry about what you look like. And whenever you're ready, you can sit back down. So I'll move on to chapter 6, and in chapter 6 we really we already covered a lot of it, actually. But anyway, it's chapter 6 is all about emotions, and so first of all, emotions, like, they're not exactly thoughts, and they're not exactly body. They're sort of ethereal. They're both mental and physical.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
So they're kind of like the wind blowing through us, right? And
I'm not sure I understand.
Sorry, my Siri is seems to think I'm talking to it. Yeah, they're like the wind, and they're very powerful, right? And in a way, they're really, what I've noticed is emotions basically run our lives, right? What we want is we want to feel good, and we don't want to feel bad, and that's emotions, right? And they're powerful, and they're beautiful, but they're also sometimes really scary, right? Um, and the more you can see them as, I kind of think of them as like the essence of being human is having emotions, right? And experiencing the emotions, you know, like really, like when you think about what is life all about, experiencing emotions is really a big part of it, right? And the more you can experience, the greater a human being you are, the more open you are to experiencing, great love, but also great pain, right? Can you open your heart to that? So, um, basically, Mickey talks about the formation of samskaras or blockages, and what he says is it's something happens, and then and it's unpleasant, and so our mind starts talking and starts trying to make us feel better. But often the mind can't process it because it's inconsistent with our views. It's inconsistent with the way we think things should be, right? And so we can't process it. It goes around and around, and we can't process it. And so that then, what happens is the emotion comes up, right? And this is the process of, like, this is a new thing. Like, like for the first time, we come across a snake, like a rattlesnake or something, right? And so there's this, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then the emotion comes up, fear, right? And but then we're like, oh, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this, right? We're afraid to feel it. So if we don't let it, if we defend against the emotion, then what happens is it basically, it can't move through us. It's like damming a river, right? You dam the river, the water can't flow. But the water's still there, and it's still pushing against the dam. And in the same way, when the energy of the emotion, when we don't let it do its thing, let it go through us, and we block it, then it's always trying to release. Okay, and it's blocking that flow of energy. And so as we accumulate more and more of these, because we keep not wanting, keep defending against experiencing these emotions, then we get all these blockages inside, and the energy flow gets diminished a lot, and we've got all these triggers inside of us, right? So, it's the mind that says, I don't want to experience this emotion. It's too strong. It's too much, right? And the mind gets thrown off by positive emotions too, right? You always hear of these, you have this marriage that's really good, and then you meet you come across the tennis pro, and the tennis pro makes you feel like it just opens your heart. They just open your heart, right? And you feel this amazing energy and this positive energy, and you can't handle it, right? You leave your partner for the tennis pro just because you had this great feeling, right? You just, I mean, you just got done. You couldn't handle that strong positive emotion, right? Um, so, you know, the admonition is to obviously to, you know, Mickey says, let the heart play its tune, right? To allow yourself to experience whatever's going on and not store it. If it's a positive emotion, let it, you know, let it flow through you. Don't hold on to it, right? How often does this happen? You know, you see this beautiful sunset, and then you're like, I want to go back tomorrow and see it again, right? No, no, you're not going to have the same experience, right? No matter how beautiful the sunset is the next night, it is not going to be the same experience, right? And by the same token, you know, we have these negative emotions we don't, you know, and we don't want to experience them, and we store them. And then every time we come across something that we associate with that experience, it gets triggered. So the main thing is not to identify with the emotion, right? To know that you are not the emotion, you are the experience of the emotion. And so, you know, when the strong emotion comes up, relax, stop defending against it, you know, let it do its thing, release the pull of the thoughts that say, I can't do this, I can't do this, I don't want to experience this. I've got to make this stop. Release that and just notice from a place of awareness. Notice that you are the one who notices the emotion. And then, you know, you'll be able to, you know, when your samskaras come up, because they, you know, when they get triggered, it's actually an opportunity, right? So we generally think, I don't want to have reactivity, but actually reactivity is an opportunity to release a samskara. If you can open to it, if you can relax and open to it and observe it from a place of awareness, that's how you release your samskara. So every time it comes up, you know, when a samskara comes up, when you have this disturbance, think of it as an opportunity to release, right? An opportunity for purification, if you will, an opportunity to unblock the flow of your energy. So I'll just move on because we're a little late. So, well, any questions on that, or observations, or yeah, Heidi?
Just an observation that actually the word emotion comes from the Latin, and it actually means energy in motion.
Wow.
Emotion, energy in motion. And the actual amount of time that you experience an emotion is seconds. What makes it a lasting experience is when you add thoughts, and then it turns into a mood. So actually emotions are designed to flow through you. We're the ones that, so the whole emotion theory fits right into what you're talking about with blockages. And the interesting thing is the blockages, trauma, they actually get stored in the body. And some people may have experienced it, like sometimes in a yoga class, like if there's a heart opening, all of a sudden you find you're overcome by an emotion because that's where it's been stored, and then it gets released and it opens up. So it fits in very, the whole emotion theory fits in with what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, thanks, Heidi. Anybody else have anything? And you know, if there's something that's puzzling you or something that just, it's like, no, that's not right.
I have a question.
Yeah. Carol?
You were saying how every time that you get triggered and something comes up is an opportunity to release it. When it's something that's repeated, like, and I, for example, am trying to actively release it, but it keeps coming back. Like, what is the process to really let go of it?
Yeah. So I should say that when I say it's an opportunity to release it, a lot of generally some scars don't release in one shot. So like Thich Nhat Hanh talks about the idea of, you know, giving our difficult emotions a bath, right? A bath of mindfulness. So as long as you're opening to it and you're observing it from a place of awareness, there is a release of energy going on. There is a transformation or a purification going on. So what I find really useful is to just remind myself, to think that, when I'm experiencing this, discomfort of just opening to say the anxiety, um, then I'm just like, yeah, this is purification, right? Or I think, I'm just let my walls be torn down, right? Later in the book, Mickey talks about, using this idea of samskaras as walls. Um, um, just a metaphor that they're walls, that we think are defending us, but actually they're preventing us from being free. They're caging us, right? And when you're practicing with it, you're not trying to release it, right? And the terminology, the word release, like it gets used two different ways in the book, right? One is like the samskara is releasing, and the other is releasing the pull of the pull of the energy or the pull of the disturbance on your attention, right? So when we say relax, release, we're talking about letting go of the pull on our attention. We're not talking about like the samskara releasing.
Okay.
So the samskara will release at some point. Again, it's unpredictable. It may just release completely, or it may just over time lessen and lessen and lessen until there's nothing to it. And often what happens is you just learn to recognize the pattern, and the pattern still comes up. The emotions and the thoughts still come up, but they don't bother you anymore. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Been there,
That's
done that.
helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely see it as it's a byproduct. It's not what you're focusing on when you're practicing with it. I do say to myself, like, this is an opportunity to learn to let go, right? Or this is an opportunity for purification. But I don't think like, come on, release, because then you're actually resisting the moment, right? You're wanting it to go away. You're wanting it to go away, and that's not what we're trying to do when we're practicing.
Okay, thank you.
So the next chapter 7, transcending the tendency to close. So Mickey says, well, it used to be that we had to defend ourselves against saber-toothed tigers and other tribes, and we were defending our physical bodies, but now we just defend our psyche, right? Because we really, for the most part, are not, we're not physically threatened in our day-to-day affairs. So now we're defending, like, what are they going to think because I have this spot on my pants, or what are they going to think if I say something not quite right? And so we've got all these psychological sensitivities, and we're defending them, right? And defending our self-concept, if you will, defending this idea of how we want things to be, how we want people to think of us, what we want to happen, all of these little sensitivities. And so we're constantly trying to protect ourselves from that. So we've talked about this at length tonight, this idea of wanting to protect ourselves. And so his admonition in this chapter is stop defending. Let go. Your mind will say, I need to defend against this. Let that go, right? Or I need to fix this problem, right? I need to figure out what to do. No, you don't. You may, I'm not saying you don't need to figure out what to do to deal with the outer problem, but the inner problem, you don't need to figure out what to do. The inner problem, it's just about allowing yourself to experience it, not defending, relaxing, opening to it, observing it from a place of awareness. So, and he talks about this idea that he says deep inside, where consciousness touches the energy and energy touches the consciousness, that's where you work. I wonder what people think of that phrase, what that means. I remember first reading it and going, what? What is he talking about here? Where the consciousness meets the energy and the energy meets the consciousness, that's where you work. So we're going to do a breakout groups just to talk about what you think this means. Where the energy meets the consciousness and the consciousness meets the energy, that's where you work. Okay. So let's see here. Breakout rooms. So again, we'll just have 2 people per room and we'll do it for about 5 minutes. So, there's no right or wrong here. It's just, what do you think this means? Okay, so here we go. And I forget if we did breakout. Yeah, we did breakout rooms last time. So you have to click to join the breakout room. It'll prompt you and then you click. And then there'll be a minute warning, but you can just keep talking, keep in the breakout room until it brings you back. Okay.
Know a little bit more about what that means, that sentence we're supposed to discuss? Hi,
Hello, Ray.
Lori.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, good.
Good. I
So,
must say, Lori, I'm in a state of confusion, and I was just asking Enrico if he wanted to start because he's got a sense of things.
yeah, so Laurie, when the consciousness meets the energy, right? Yeah, so I think from my experience, what that means is when you're becoming aware of the energy that goes through you. So any emotions or any feelings that you get throughout your experience, then you're becoming aware, you're becoming conscious of them, and so you're aware, so you know how to act instead of reacting. Let's say if you feel anger and you're not conscious of it, you're not aware of it, you're more likely to get it out through your mouth in a meaningful or wrong way. Where if you feel anger, you take a second and you're like, okay, I'm feeling upset, I'm angry, then you can take action and know who you want to be and how you want to act instead of just do it.
Yeah.
Is that does that resonate with you?
You're talking to me?
Yes, yes.
It does. It does. What I liked there, I don't want to get caught in words, but to use the awareness, the idea of being aware of the anger and then letting that come up instead of reacting to it. That makes a lot of sense. I got snagged with the word consciousness, which to me is a great big huge bag. Awareness, I've been able to experience. I have a sense of when I'm on track with my awareness. And I can certainly understand, emotion as energy, or even thoughts having emotional parts or the sensation to it. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have to be careful because of the way my mind works, not to get snagged in concepts. And where I'm coming from, I have an appointment with you later this week, Lori, is that I'm coming from Buddhism. So there's a clash. Oh, is that ever awful to try to translate from one way, one word, one system to another, you know? So I'm trying just to work with it and not get too much into the thoughts, because that's another trap for me.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm, this is the first time I've done this particular breakout, and I think I should have explained a little more about what consciousness means in this, and what energy means in this context. But I think it's interesting to see what people, like off the top of your head, what the thought is.
Yeah.
Because what he's talking about here really is the consciousness just means awareness.
Yeah.
And energy means the he's talking about the pull of the energy.
Okay.
So he's talking about getting pulled out of your seat of awareness into the energy.
Right. And the energy of the thought, or the energy of what kind of energy? Like any energies. So you basically getting pulled out of it, pulled out of your you're not you anymore.
Anything that pulls you out of the seat of awareness.
Okay.
Anything that pulls you into this, like that collapses your consciousness, or your consciousness collapses on any object, really.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just going to. Yeah. So it's this idea. I mean, I'll explain it, I guess, in a large group. But
okay.
Like, I don't know if you've noticed at all in practicing with the letting go, you know, the release part, right? If you've noticed, like, noticing that pull of the energy.
Yeah. Yeah, that you don't want, like, oh well, there is the rejection of releasing and like be in it, and that's the pull, and then there is the me observing it, right? And that's where awareness is.
Yeah, there's you noticing the pull. There's the awareness noticing.
Well, and that's what happens to me. I think it's like gone, but yeah. Sorry.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So this may have been, I should apologize, because I think I should have explained a little bit better what the context of that quote. So he was talking about the context of the pull of the energy, the pull of the disturbance. So in relaxed release, lean back, the release is the idea that the energy of the disturbance, of the emotions, the thoughts, perhaps the bodily sensations, that they, you know, that the attention notices them and pulls and gets pulled out of the seat of awareness and collapses on the energy of the disturbance. So for example, you know, you're walking down the street and you hear this loud bang, and your attention immediately goes to the loud bang, right? It just gets pulled out into the bang, right? Or, you know, like at some of the examples from earlier tonight, you know, a woman's talking and the voice is bothering you, and then your attention gets drawn into it and absorbed in it, like and you're just like, oh, no, it's in that particular case, it sounded, Eleanor, like you did stay in your seat of awareness for the most part, but you know, often we get pulled into the thoughts, right, into the emotions. I mean, on a very simple level, just when you're doing sitting meditation and say you're focusing on your breathing, and then all of a sudden you notice that you've gone off on these thoughts, right? You started thinking about what you're having for dinner, and da 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 da, and all of a sudden you notice, oh, wait, I was following my breath, but now I've been thinking about dinner for the last, I don't even know how long. So what happened there is the energy of your thoughts pulled your consciousness into them, right? At some point, the thoughts started, you got distracted, your consciousness got pulled out of the seat of awareness and collapsed on these thoughts. And once that happens, you're gone, right? You're gone. There is no technique for moving from forgetfulness to awareness, right? The only way you move from forgetfulness to awareness is grace. Because by definition, you're in forgetfulness. You have lost your seat of awareness, right? And so you're on autopilot. There is nothing for you to do because you're not there, right? I mean, in a sense, you're there. I mean, there is an awareness, like there is this sort of awareness, but it's collapsed on the object, right? Mickey calls this object consciousness. So you're just, you're lost in your thoughts in that case, right? And so what he's saying here is, see if you can notice that initial tug of the energy on your consciousness, right? He's using consciousness to mean awareness or attention. So he's saying, when you notice that tug, try and note that the place where the consciousness meets the energy is the place where you notice that you're getting pulled out. You're experiencing that pull, that tug on your attention, right? And that's a very subtle spot. You tend to get pulled out of awareness very quickly, right? Like if you think about it, it's like when you think about your experience of meditating on the breath, that point where you went off into your thoughts, it's very hard to see that coming, right? And that's what he's talking about here, is trying to notice try and notice where that's happening. Try and notice the tug, right? I actually find it a lot. I mean, I find that impossible. But it's with a disturbance, it's more easy, I find, because I can think to myself, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I can notice, oh, my thoughts are telling me I need to figure this out. They're trying to draw me in. But I don't need to, that's the pull of the energy, right? And he says, just release the pull. But it's very hard to release the pull until you know that the energy is pulling on your consciousness, right? So by energy, it's just the energy of the thoughts, the energy of the emotions, the energy of the body sensations, right? You drop a hammer on your toe, your attention is going right to your toe, very fast, very fast. That's the pull of the energy on your consciousness, right? So whenever there's something compelling, drawing your attention to it, that's the tug of the energy. Susan, so you raised your hand.
I got a little bit confused now. Is being a witness, when you become a witness to your thoughts and your emotions, is that a step? Is that the same, or is that a step back? Is that a little bit more, going a little bit more deeper?
It's just being in the seat of awareness. So it's not particularly deep, but I mean, ideally, you want to be in the seat of awareness much of the time, right?
So how do you relate these two states, that where the emotions meet the consciousness and then consciousness meets emotion and witness consciousness, being the witness?
Right. You can't do this unless you're the witness, right? There's really just two states, if you will. One
Okay.
is seat of awareness or witness or mindfulness, right? Where it's like, I'm aware of what's going on in my experience. I see these things happening in my experience, and I'm aware, and there's some perspective there, there's some space, right? I know I'm sitting in the movie theater. I'm not absorbed in the movie, right? The movie of your life, of your experience of this moment. So, or object consciousness, which means autopilot, which means I'm aware of the thinking, I'm aware of the thoughts, I'm aware of the emotions, but I'm not aware that I'm aware. I'm not aware that there's anything except what I'm aware of.
So does these are two states, does one state precede another?
I mean, time flows. So, I mean, you can go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. So what I was talking about before, in terms of going from forgetfulness to awareness, once you go into object consciousness, once you're
You pull in.
Hmm?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah. So once that happens, um, you don't have any agency. Like you're on autopilot, right? So any practice that we're talking about is it presumes that you're in the seat of awareness.
Okay.
If you're not if you're not aware that you're aware, if you're not aware that this is thought, these are my thoughts, these are my emotions, and have that mindfulness going, then you can't do any of this stuff because you're just on autopilot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the call here in terms of and this is really, I must say, this is this is a bit of an experiment on my part, because this is quite advanced. On the one hand, it's quite advanced, but it is something that you can start right from the beginning, right? Is to just be noticing throughout your day whenever you feel your attention pulled here or there, right? And you can do it with just like, noises or like shiny objects, right? Anything that seems to be tugging on your attention, or just, you're reading and then you start thinking about dinner, right? So just noticing, being on the lookout for your attention getting drawn hither and yon, as they say, right? Just noticing your attention getting pulled by the energy, right, of whatever's going on. Generally, it's like thoughts tend to be the main thing that pull you, but obviously, like dropping the hammer on your toe is going to pull your attention. Hearing a noise is going to pull your attention, right? Especially what tends to draw our attention is what is pleasant or unpleasant. If it's neutral, we tend to just ignore it, right? We've always got so much going on around us, we can't possibly pay attention to it all. So we tend to notice, to focus on things that are, pleasant or unpleasant, especially strongly pleasant or strongly unpleasant, right? And so just the call here is to notice how your attention is getting pulled throughout the day.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So Sandra and I were talking about how energy and consciousness could in fact be partners or allies, and how one places one's energy, one's attention on something, and it's like a light beam which brings your consciousness to be aware of that, and aware of yourself being aware of that. So they work together in a sense. And can be used as tools to place energy where you want it to go, and then to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Does that model work?
Yeah, I think it does. You're not using the terms the same way Mickey does, but that doesn't matter. It's true what you're saying, that when you put your attention on something, you give it energy. You know, when you shine the light of consciousness on, you know, you may not notice any sensation in your knee, but then if you put your attention on your knee and you keep it there, you'll notice that you start to be able to feel sensations there, right? So wherever you put your attention, energy tends to go there, right? But the energy is not the way that Mickey talks about it. The energy is the energy of the like the flow of energy is not. It's something different than your consciousness. So it's your consciousness does direct the energy in the sense that where you put it, the energy tends to go. So that's definitely an interesting practice, is just, you know, noticing how like the effect of shining the light of awareness on your experience. And you'll, like, you know, if you have an emotion and you put your attention on that emotion, sometimes the emotion will get stronger, right? Or bodily sensation, sometimes the bodily sensation will get stronger. When we don't put our attention on something, when we sort of purposely turn away from some experience, the energy tends to lessen. Yeah, but the practice he's talking about here is just noticing the pull. So it's not consciously directing your consciousness, but rather it's noticing how your consciousness is getting pulled unintentionally here and there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we're almost out of time. I was going to do a little exercise, but I think we don't quite have time for it. So I'm just going to share my screen just to go over the home practice. We'll do that, and then if anybody has any questions, we can go into that if we have time, or I'm happy to stay beyond 9 o'clock to answer the questions. So let's see here. So the practice this week, I continue to use the how to let go to, you know, I would definitely read that over, maybe even every day, because it's kind of the core practice. And our theme this week is emotions. So I've got some meditations in there in the meditations folder. They start with 2, so 2 dash, and there's a 20-minute, a 28-minute, and a 40-minute. The 20-minute is focused on emotions, and the other ones are emotions and a bit of thoughts and a bit of open awareness. Then continuing to work with the small stuff, so you can work, you know, you can focus on the same 1 or 2 things as last week, or you can pick new things from your list, or you can just come up with new ones to focus on. Of course, you're still, you know, working with whatever comes up, but just to help you remember to work with these things. Setting a strong intention and notice when they come up, to remember the purpose of this, to learn to let go. And then the other thing is just noticing the opening and closing. So noticing your heart, noticing any tendency to close, and asking yourself, is this worth closing? Right? And I find this is a powerful practice to really notice that defending, to notice that closing. And it's not about stopping yourself from closing, like that may be a result down the road, but really it's just to notice the closing and to notice, like to notice how it's a choice. It may be a subconscious choice, it may be like an automatic choice, but like we have to do something to close. And so just noticing, noticing when you're open, noticing when you're closed, and noticing the thoughts that are telling you that this time it's worth closing. The thoughts that are saying, well, this happened. Of course I'm not happy. How can I be happy when this person just said this thing to me? How can I be happy when, it's not even again, it's not really being happy, it's just being open, right? Something bad happens, you're not going to be happy about it, but can you stay open? Can you stay open to it? And then just the next 3 chapters, 8 to 10 for next week. And then this is a really fun one, letting the heart play its tune. So just think of a movie or music that, it evokes strong emotions in you. And then watch it or listen to it and just see how present you can be. See if you can allow the emotions to just play out and just watch them from the seat of awareness. And whenever you notice yourself trying to, to not experience them, it may be like distracting. There may be a thought that says, maybe a schmaltzy movie, and then you start getting sad, and then your mind says to you, oh, this is such a schmaltzy movie, right? Which is basically defending against feeling it, right? So a lot of times the commentary, if you look behind it, the purpose of the commentary is to stop you from feeling the emotion so strongly, so just really practicing noticing the ebb and flow of your emotions and observing the emotions from the seat of awareness and just allowing them to be, dropping any resistance to experiencing them. So that's a really cool one. And then just continuing to journal about what you notice and learning to let go in your daily life, if you're doing that. Any questions about that? Elizabeth, you're muted.
Let's say that we're watching a movie and it's violent. What do we do with everything that comes up in terms of watching that? I usually fast forward it. What should I be doing?
Sorry, when do you fast forward?
I fast forward the movie. I get away from the violent parts.
Oh, well, don't pick a movie that has violent parts.
Okay.
I mean, unless
sometimes you don't know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like go into it thinking like it doesn't have to be a movie you've seen. So maybe you don't know, and maybe there are violent parts that you don't want to watch and you want to skip. But generally you'll know what kind of movie it is, and it's like, well, if I want to work with fear, then maybe I should pick a scary movie, or if I want to work with sadness, then maybe I'll pick a tragedy, or maybe there's a song that reminds me of an ex, and it always makes me that brings up strong things. Like I have a song that always reminds me. A friend of mine, when he was 24, killed himself, and I remember playing the song "Desperado" from the Eagles as I was like right after he died, and it just, I mean, I hear that song now and I think of him and I get very emotional, right? So, you know, you probably know some songs or movies that tend to trigger you emotionally, right?
Okay.
So it's
Thank
just, the idea is just to experience that in awareness, opening as much as you can to experiencing the emotions. So it's just practicing experiencing strong emotions in awareness.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions, please stay behind, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And wishing you a wonderful week of practice. And so I've set up consultations with about half of you for this week, and then in a day or two, I'll send out an email to the other folks to set up consultations in the week, like after next Tuesday. So, and you don't have to prepare at all. It's just, we're just going to talk about your practice. So thanks, everyone.
Sorry.
Quick question, Laurie.
Yeah.
You talked earlier about how we close, but we don't open.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself closed sometimes. And when I notice, I say, well, I don't want to be closed. I'm going to open. And I open, and it works. Am I missing something here?
Well, we're naturally open. So you open by stopping closing. So
I see your perspective.
yeah. You know, I do see where, like, you know, I'll often do this gesture of opening, right? I'll say yes, or let me experience this. And that is a gesture of opening. And actually I have noticed that it works sometimes. Mickey very clearly says, all we do is close. It's basically based on the, you know, just really being aware that the natural state is open. We have to do something to close, right? I mean, it may be the samskara that does it. When I say we do something, I mean, samskara can do it. That is part of us, right? In a sense, it's our lower self, if you will. But yeah. So yeah. I mean, you're right. I do notice the gesture of opening can do it, but I'm trusting Mickey to say, well, that's probably just stopping closing.
Fair enough. That makes good sense.
Hmm.
Thanks a lot, Laurie.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Nice
You're
to
welcome.
see you.
Likewise. Take care, folks.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye, Laurie.
My question, can I ask my question?
Sure.
Elizabeth just said about the movie and forwarding, and isn't that fast forwarding kind of exactly what you are in this exercise is about? Just watching a movie, and no matter what comes up, be open to this, to what, you know, go force, you know, because you said pick another movie. Well, isn't that kind of avoiding the sensation of, oh, I don't want to watch this, I don't like I don't.
Yeah, well, it's so one of my practices is mindful consumption. So, you know, I do avoid movies or, you know, TV shows or conversations or whatever, where because we do feed our if you watch a movie or a TV show with a lot of violence, you can water that seed in you, right? And so I tend to, so I was thinking of it from that perspective, that, if I'm watching this movie because there's a scene in the movie that's really, that evokes, sadness or a memory that, evokes whatever emotions, to really be there with that. But, but generally in watching movies, if you're trying to not water your seeds of violence, then, so they're really two different practices. So,
That's I'm not sure I understand it, because it's when I say I don't like that because it's violent, I'm not sure what you mean by watering
Well,
down,
yeah, so
because it avoid something I don't like.
yeah, it's
But
more
violence in this world.
right. It's really it's a Thich Nhat Hanh practice. It's very different, but it's the idea that our mind is a garden with different seeds in it. Positive seeds like kindness and compassion, negative seeds like fear and loneliness, say. And we can water, and so the idea is that you want to water the seeds, the positive seeds, and not water the negative seeds,
I
right?
see.
So it's this practice that he calls it selective watering, right? Or just, being the gardener of your mind, if you will, of the garden of your mind. So, avoiding, so this mindful consumption is like, avoiding things, experiences that water your negative seeds. So you're not doing it from the perspective of resisting experience. You're doing it from the perspective of, I'm not, I'm not going to put myself in an environment that waters my negative seeds.
So it's almost like saying I choose kindness. Right.
Yeah, it's like there's a story in mindfulness circles, or they tell it in MBSR, this idea that, you walk down the street and there's a big hole and you don't see the hole and you fall in, right?
Yes.
And so and you do that a couple of times, and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to be on the lookout for this hole. And then you're looking out for the hole, but you still see it. You see it, but you still walk into it, right? And you fall in, and you don't know how to get out. And then and someone has to come rescue you. And then you learn how to get out of the hole, right? But you're still falling in the hole, but you're learning how to get out of the hole. And then you learn how to get out of the hole. And then at some point you learn how to, avoid the hole. You walk just a little, it's still dark, but you know where the hole is, and you manage to not fall in, right? But then the ultimate stage is you walk down another street, and then you never have to fall into the hole. You never have to worry about the hole, right? So this is the practice of walking down the other street. It's the practice of saying, this is going to water my negative seeds, so I'm just going to not go there.
May I say
So,
something?
yeah, Elizabeth?
I think when I gave that example, I was thinking if I choose what I hope is going to be a nice movie or part of a serial, suddenly I'm going to be maybe confronted with a violent scene, and the emotions that are going to come up in me will be fear, aversion, judgment, of myself for picking that, etc. So I know I picked a too complicated example. I know you wanted us to just fully experience an emotion without, fighting it. So I just I was visualizing myself following this series, and I realized the series is just too chaotic, to be a good choice in what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was helpful. Thank you with
Yeah.
what you explained. Yeah, thanks so
Kind
much.
ideas are beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. It's like we want to work with suffering when it comes up, but we don't want to go looking for
Right.
it.
You
Yeah.
know what? This actually resolved something very important for me. So thank you, Lori.
I'm glad.
It's like, yeah, that was wonderful. You have no idea what it is, but it's okay. Well, thank you so
Good
much.
night. Thank you very much. Good night.
Right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
okay.
All
Bye.
right. So Lori, I guess I have that question again, but I'm not gonna.
The who am
Don't
I
expect-
question or the
Well, the question between intentional and unintentional attention. If I'm drawn by my energy and I'm pulled and I become object consciousness, then I have to return to my seat of awareness. However, if I choose to place my attention, and that's a different matter. Go ahead, Kath. I'm still talking. Right. So, maybe we don't answer this tonight. I'm just. I would like to be able to link the two seats of awareness, the two witness.
Yeah, I'm still not sure what when you say the two seats of awareness, what the like there's if you move from awareness to autopilot, to forgetful, like where you're not aware of that you're aware, where you're only aware of your experience or the object, then like you've lost any ability to choose. You've lost any ability to put your attention somewhere else because you're now you're lost in the object basically, right? And you're now fully identified with the object and you have no, you can't do any practice and you can't get out of it either. You'll naturally come out of it, but through grace, like not through your own choice. But you can still, like when we practice open awareness, you can allow your attention to go wherever it's pulled, but be aware, be aware, stay in the seat of awareness and watch it getting pulled and not resist the pull and just, not resist the pull in the sense that it's pulled the attention from one object to another, but it hasn't pulled it out of the seat of awareness. So there's still that subject, that witness is still there. And you've just moved from one object to another, but you still have subject awareness, right? You still have mindfulness.
But can you not also place your awareness from one object to another and maintain your seat of awareness?
Yes, sure. Absolutely.
So you can be proactive or while in the open awareness you're noticing your attention drifting, but you can also choose to place the awareness on the plant, on the kitten, on the window, while maintaining, and it's the same seat of awareness. One is noticing the drift and the other one is intentionally directing the drift.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even, when it's intentional, I don't even think of it as drift. I mean, when we practice sitting meditation, we're basically playing with attention. We're purposely moving attention, right? We're saying, okay, put the attention on, notice sensations in the whole body. Now notice your breathing. Now notice your emotions, and every time you're doing that, you're changing focus of the attention, right? You're changing the objects that you're focused on. But you're staying in the sea of awareness throughout, ideally, right? I mean, I say ideally, I mean everybody gets pulled, goes off, their attention goes into forgetfulness at some point in the meditation generally. I don't know what your experience is, but so that, that's unintentional.
Right.
We never intentionally get lost in thoughts. Right.
Right. Okay. I think you've cleared it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. All righty.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Bye.